Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacalyn. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacalyn at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. I'm the president, founder, and chief listening officer here at our network, where we currently have 29 live broadcasts each week. Our show today is the Mallorca Connection, and my connection to Mallorca is Mr. Roland FRIEDL. We just did a show together right before this, so if you missed it, please go over to our YouTube channel, USA Global TV and Radio. Roland is literally rolling along in his motorhome. He is going through Europe, and he's able to find connections wherever it is he goes. He's a co-host of multiple shows here on this platform, including a new one that's about to start next week, The Earth Show. He's one of our expert presenters on our Talking Heads platform, and he is an elevated listener, meaning he listens at the highest level. And he's also the host and moderator of his own show, a show for men, by men, about men. Wild at Heart Bonfire Talks. Let's welcome Roland FRIEDL to the show. Hello.
Hello, Dr. Jacalyn. Great to see you again.
Oh my gosh, it's exhausting to go through all the things that you do here. I can't believe it, Roland. It's amazing.
Well, you know, the day has 24 hours, the week has 7 days, the month has 30 days, so there's a lot of time.
Yes, some months have 31 days, but you always make time for us, and you've been training people from across the globe, from one of the largest companies in the world, from your motorhome, doing your shows from your motorhome. Tell us a little bit about what was the inspiration to live this wireless life.
Well, first of all, I was born in a small but very beautiful country in the middle of Europe, Austria. And those of you who are familiar with history, after World War I, we lost access to the sea. So Austria was a huge country. It became smaller. And I don't know, maybe I have some little gypsy blood in myself. I don't know. My mom told me we have a little bit from her side. I always loved to travel. Always. This was always my dream, traveling, get to know, but not traveling, go in a resort and go to the buffet and to the pool. No, I mean traveling, connecting with people, connecting with other cultures, learning other languages, learning other traditions. I was always very open. And so after university, I went to the corporate world, and I decided very, very soon I get out of there. It's not because I didn't like the job, or even I didn't like the check. The check was amazing, but I had no chance on traveling. I could travel for business, but business travel, seeing airports, 5-star hotels, business meeting, that's all. And I wanted to travel, get to know the people, and meaning, I don't know how it's in the US and other parts of the world, but in Austria, when you work for a corporation, you have 5 weeks of vacation per year. And this was not enough for me to travel. So I started my own businesses. And from the beginning, my focus always was building up businesses. I had several ones, building up businesses which I can operate or manage or lead from wherever I am. And luckily, with all these technologies that came out last 25 years, it's possible with internet, or now we use StreamYard, or I use Zoom or Teams, whatever. I can work and connect with people where I am. And yeah, actually the last 14 years, Mallorca has been my home base from where I was traveling. And a few months ago, I moved into the motorhome to travel Europe. I know so many places in the world, but I said, maybe I should travel more in Europe. I work from there. And also, 90% of my clients, I work remotely. Right now, I work for, since 20 years already, a US-based company, a huge one. I ran a workshop last week, and I run a workshop this week. I coach executive companies from France, from Switzerland online. But sometimes I have to travel, so I stay in Europe. I just park my motorhome outside of the airport, get to my clients, and see them. That's what I'm doing.
Wow, it's very exciting, Roland. And I have to share with you, living in the US, so many times when I was in my corporate career, we would just have conversations, my colleagues and myself, and say, those Europeans, how do they take those 5 weeks a year off? How can we get 5 weeks? And it ended up, I was able to get 5 weeks vacation. I was in corporate. So thanks for leading the way on that. You've brought another wonderful guest who's been here before and added so much value, Jeffrey Armstrong, who is backstage ready to join us. Tell us a little bit about how the two of you know each other.
Well, first of all, I got to know Jeffrey, one of his books, a few years ago. I guess it was 2016 or 2015, something like that. My former wife gave me a book as a present, The Spiritual Teaching of the Avada. Actually, she got me the German version, but in English, The Spiritual Teaching of the Avada. And I guess I also mentioned it on the last show we had with Dr. Jeffrey in March. This was really an eye-opener to me. It flashed me. And to be honest, as we mentioned, I'm living in my motorhome. I'm working for the. I brought, there is limited space, of course. I have hundreds and thousands of books. I brought some business books and I brought some spiritual books that are very important for me that I read again and again. And Dr. Jeffrey's book is one of those books that is with me. So I love this book. I read it always again and again. Because I got new insight. And to be honest, I also love it because he refers a lot to Cameron's movie Avatar, which also is one of my favorite movies. So that's what I've heard about Dr. Jeffrey Armstrong the first time. And then in 2017, I went to Bali and joined this Bali Spirit Festival. And I looked for the program was offering, and I said, lectures from Dr. Jeffrey Armstrong. I said, hey, that's amazing. Isn't it the guy from the book? Let's go to the sessions. And it always was a small group, but I learned a lot about, yoga. I learned about the Vedas. I learned a lot about Sanskrit, the real meaning of the Sanskrit word. And so we get to know each other. I guess 2019, I was again in Bali, so we had always had a little bit of loose contact. And I just love to listen to him. I just love to listen. And why I bring him on the show is I think more people should know about him. I mean, he's known. He has an amazing reputation worldwide. He get an amazing worldwide award from the Indian government too. I guess he will speak about a little bit about it. But I want him to bring it to a broader audience, to open up their hearts for this amazing culture, for this what you can learn from them. That's why I bring him to. I'm very proud and pleased and honored that he's back again on our show.
Thank you so much. Let's welcome Dr. Jeffrey Armstrong, who is a keynote speaker, seminar leader, consultant, best-selling author, passionate poet, and ICCR Distinguished Indologist 2021 Award. Welcome.
Namaste, Dr. Jacalyn and Roland. Great to see you again. What a pleasure.
Namaste.
I was just going to say, Dr. Jacalyn, where Roland and I actually met was on the Silk Road a couple thousand years ago. And Jesus was just becoming a bit of a thing. Nobody knew he was going to eventually colonize the world. And so both of us were, up and down, learning about yoga, gathering whatever knowledge we could. So his secret name from Roland is Roland Freely. And that's what he's always been like. He ran the whole Silk Road. And mine, Jeffrey Armstrong, is actually secretly Jeffrey Dharma Strong. So what a pleasure to be here with my old friend from the Silk Road and with you, Jacalyn.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So you cut out a little bit when you were saying what your name meaning was. Can you say that again?
Yes, from Jeffrey Armstrong. The nickname is Jeffrey Dharma Strong.
Ah.
Strong Dharma.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Strong Dharma. And in your case, the one who keeps the Silk Road open so the whole world gets to know whatever is knowable.
Wow, I love that.
Thank you.
We've been doing this for thousands and thousands of years. And that's the part that Western civilization threw out. Its science, as well as its religions. Only live for one lifetime. What to be more terrifying or tragic than that? And The only worldview that really is broad-minded is the one that sees that we're all immortal beings visiting this planet, and this makes us be respectful to one another. That's the basis of yoga.
Absolutely. Jeffrey, last time we had a conversation about karma as a science, and today I want to talk actually two topics. One is, how can we cope these challenges in a yogic way? What is your approach to cope with these challenges? People are very afraid, scared. They don't know what's going on. Especially here in Europe, we have an energy crisis. We have a war that's going on in Ukraine. We have a food crisis. It's really terrible here in Europe. We're very scared. So how can a yogic way help out of this to stay calm, to stay focused, to stay positive? That's one point. And I also want to talk about your book, because it's not only available now in the US, it's also available now in some European countries for all the audience. So these are the two topics. My first thing is, what is your thought about what's going on in the world right now? What do you think, and what can you give as an advice where people should focus on? Because when I see social media, you see this opinion, you see this opinion, people are outraged about this, people are outraged about this. I personally believe that I should not focus on the bad side. I should more focus on the positive side. What's your approach and your advice?
Well, it's an excellent question, and it really extends to everything we do. Let me give you an example. The knowledge of India has been leaking out ever since they were colonized by the British. But it took a while for it to really land culturally. Now, that's the answer to the karma question, too. What goes around comes around. But the timetable of that is over many lifetimes. So unless we're trained in looking at the big view. Now, Mahatma Gandhi was called this, but he didn't use the word correctly. Mahatma, one who sees the big picture. So first, until you see the big picture, everyone is just terrified and small-minded. They're Duratma instead of Mahatma. So it's very important that we set an example of teaching or sharing that isn't aggressive, because that's the problem with the so-called religions that have gone out in the world to force everyone. So the saying I have is, not by coercion, not by conversion, always by friendly conversation. That's the essence of the knowledge of India. Always, when you're ready, always because you wish it, always with respect, always seeing you as an immortal being, not your package, not your skin, not your culture, not your politics. And this shifts the conversation to the part that everyone is, so everyone benefits.
Thank you for that. I have a question that's based on what Roland and I were discussing a little bit earlier. In the practice of yoga, when you walk into some place where yoga is being practiced, or maybe it's outside, you are all sort of similar. You're all on the same ground, so to speak, because you're all practicing yoga. But walk away from that practice and people are judging. It could be the same people you just practiced next to yoga, and then a few minutes later, an hour later, like, oh, he's this and she's that. And how can we take that, leaving it all there on the mat, and take that out through our lives? Is it possible?
Yes, excellent question. You see, it isn't really yoga that's being practiced yet. It's the tip of yoga being introduced into a culture that by nature hates it and is against it. So it had to come in somehow. So how did it come in? Think about it for a moment. Just a few years ago, the United States finally decided, oh, well, sure, women should vote. Sure, why not? We can't do anything about it. Oh, yeah, okay, finally, we'll let them own property. Okay, so something's wrong in this picture, huh? What is it? Well, there's no feminine divine. There's no partnership between the masculine and feminine divine, who are all both, and therefore all validated in that process. But look where yoga landed. It didn't land philosophically. It landed for all those embodied in female form. 80% of the so-called yoga practitioners in the world, and they are doing a part of yoga, but are in female bodies because they're re-embodying because of the damage done to them by Christianity and modern science, because modern science has no worldview other than make interesting toys, but other than that, they have no philosophical worldview. So this left the feminine out. Now, when I say it's barely yoga, because yoga is not doing things with your body. That's just bringing your body to balance. Yoga is the state of consciousness that is outside of the limitations of matter. And the link to the source of our original existence is the basis of yoga. So that's what yoga is supposed to achieve. But the physical yoga studios don't teach that yet, for the most part. That's my job.
Great answer. Thank you. Very insightful.
Absolutely. I guess it was Patlabi. I don't remember. I guess it was Patlabi Choice who said yoga is an inner process and a lifestyle. Everything else is just a circus. And when I see social media, yoga teachers and on Instagram platform with all these poses in front of, I don't know what excited building. For me, this is not yoga. This is not yoga. This is just a gym posture in front of something. Can you explain a little bit to our audience? Because some people really believe that yoga is the gym on the mat. What is yoga?
The word yoga is yuj. You could hear that in the word marriage, uj. Uj in English is from yuj in Sanskrit, and yuj is the root of yoga. It means to connect. So yoga means to reconnect with the source of our existence as an individual, not through a church, not through a ritual, or with all of us together, although those things are useful, but to directly go and have a one-to-one personal relationship. And while we're at it, the book you mentioned earlier, the Bhagavad Gita, the one I recently translated, is exactly about that friendly, user-friendly personal relationship with the source of everything. There's your definition of yoga. A user-friendly personal relationship with the source of everything.
Many years ago, before my accident, I was a runner. I was running marathons, 100 miles, stuff like that. And I remember there was a German guy come up, a medical doctor. He wrote a lot of book about running, and there was a trend. Actually, his technique was really bad, and all the medical doctors had a lot of jobs to do afterwards. They made a lot of business because people have problems with the joint. But he started a trend, and more and more people started going outside, running in the woods. And I see the same a little bit with yoga, where you're bringing yoga to the Western culture, doing this. I say workout on the mat. For me, it's just a start. I don't see it bad. It's just a start. And more people also engage in the traditions, in the philosophy. Not all of them, but I guess it started a trend. It's not so bad, but I think we should go deeper. What can you advise to people who maybe never ever started with the yoga postures or practicing the asanas and the breathwork, whatever? What's your advice to go deeper, and how can they benefit in these challenging times?
Excellent question. This symbol, this gesture, actually holds the secret. Yoga is actually going to the balance point in every area of life and staying there in spite of the chaos that you're surrounded by. So it's finding and living in that spot. It means I see you have the possibility of doing that. It's not you must do this. It's not at gunpoint. It's not something you must do, but I'm suggesting, what if we all stay balanced while we do what we do? What if we do that? Then that would allow us to focus our consciousness on more than just what's around us. We could have an internal focus as well. So if we're not the body, and if it's just our car, and in Sanskrit it's called the karana, by the way, It's the car we drive. So if we're inside there, then yoga is to keep it healthy. That's the external yoga, because pose, counter pose, counter pose, breathe right. Okay, now you're balanced. Now, if you're balanced, try to stay that way. Now, as you go throughout your day, try to stay that way. So here's the big secret. The secret of yoga is mantra. Mantra, Om Bhuvasva, is just like the way you hear someone's voice, and if you close your eyes, you feel what's really going on. So mantra is our link to the source of everything, and vibration is what actually runs the entire universe we're living in.
Thank you. Roland, I think you're on mute. I was going to say, I do have a follow-up question from that. So my question is, and Roland and I have discussed this before, it's easier to meditate or practice yoga if you're sitting in a room by yourself, or you're somewhere where that's what you're supposed to be doing. And so we do that, the physical work, and then we have some epiphany, or we realize we've been following trends or judging people. And then when we get into a situation where we have to use those skills, we just fall apart. It's like, oh, we never learned anything, or we unlearned everything that we learned. And we become part of this trend of just getting lost in our own way. And I'm wondering, with all the work that you've done and being acknowledged in this field, we're only human, right? We're human beings, and we make mistakes over and over again. Is it possible there will be a trend where we value people and show them the value that we have in this different way?
All right, if you don't mind my correction, we're actually not human. We're Atma. And each one of us is an Atma, an unbreakable, indestructible particle of ultimate reality. We cannot die, we cannot fade, we cannot go away. And yoga is simply the remembrance of that and acting as if that was our identity. All the rest of yoga is details. Now, what you will notice is that the Bhagavad Gita, the same text I was pointing to, is the ultimate yoga text, because your question is beautiful. Your question was, how can I stay focused and balanced in the midst of this crazy world, in all that I have to do? I can't sit down and do an asana. I can't say, pardon me, I've got to go breathe. I'm right in the midst of the battle. Oh, what a coincidence. The ultimate yoga book was spoken on the eve of a huge battle with millions of soldiers. By the way, no civilians were hurt. Millions of soldiers about to fight, have a huge conflict. And the questions answered in the Bhagavad Gita, which is the ultimate yoga manual, are the questions you just asked. How do I stay in balanced consciousness of myself, not as the body, but as an immortal being, an Atma? How do I stay connected to that in the midst of this crazy? And that's the question. And that's the answer. The user's manual of how to do that is a small book of 701 Sanskrit verses. And everything you need to know to enact that shift in consciousness is in the pages of that book. And it's user-friendly. It doesn't say do this or go to hell. It says, if you'd like to perfect yourself, try this. And let's be best friends, the source of all says. Let's be best friends. How's that? User-friendly or what?
Yeah, very user-friendly. Thank you. Thank you. Roland, over to you. I know you had a question.
Yeah, Jeffrey, as we Atmans, I think of this many, many, many times. Are we from Mother Earth, or we are coming from a different galaxy? What's your opinion? What does the Veda say?
Good. So first of all, slight correction. Do not use "n" at the end of that word. It implies that we're the big reality that this is resting on. We're not. We are an Atma. And we chose to be here. We didn't come here by force. We chose to go on this journey, and we will choose to go back. Choosing to go back and achieving it is called moksha, like mocha. Moksha. So if you succeed in yoga, you do not have to come back here again. But while you're here, you're also not twisted by what's going on. And so yoga is simply to establish a connection as who you really are, as an Atma, to take that identity back. So then even your body leaving you isn't frightening. As a matter of fact, nothing is. And so staying in that consciousness is the art of yoga, because it's easy to say, but it's challenging to do in a crazy world when people are attacking, when things are going crazy. But that's exactly where yoga was taught. In the middle of a crazy, dangerous world, not in a yoga studio in tights, feeling nice and looking pretty, but out on the field in everything we do. That's when yoga is practiced.
Okay. Jeffrey, from your point of view, from your experience, I know you're connected with many people, and I know we're on the same page. We know what's going on in the back. Actually, the book is available, The Great Reset. Do you think that the Great Reset will at the end be established or will fall down before?
So good question. I was going to mention this earlier. I like to invent words in the English language because that's what it's good at. New creative words, not old deep meanings. So what we call entrepreneur is actually just a for-profit corporation. And I've worked in them, so I know this close up like you do. A for-profit only group of people. So entrepreneur leads to entrepreneur, which is turning the world into a pile of shit by consuming it, stealing it, taking it all, and being profit only oriented. And so you can see the distinction. Not every entrepreneur is going to use what they do to destroy the world. But so far, they've all been taking. It's called colonization. And the cure for those to not destroy the world is called mantrapreneur. Someone who cooperates with the ultimate divine consciousness while making a profit and recycling everything. That's the manure part. And we're on the eve of a total societal collapse because we've only been entrepreneurs. We've been sucking the life out of the planet for 300-400 years. That's what we did, the Western powers did to all of the cultures of the world. And therefore, and you know, they were sent out by the Pope. I don't know if you know that. But in 1452, the Pope sent a papal bull out that said, I give permission to all Catholics to discover the world. And discovery meant take what you want, enslave the people, force them to be Christians, and take over whatever is owned by someone who's not a Christian. And that person was called persona non grata. And their relation to the earth was terra nullis. They appear to be people, but they're not. This is all the indigenous folks. They look like people, but they're really just animals. That was what went out in the world, 1452, just prior to Columbus, with that permission slip from the Pope, going out and doing exactly that. And even the Protestants jumped on board. And we are not yet recovered from that colonization.
Absolutely. And actually, you know, Jeffrey, most people don't even know that the Pope in the beginning of the 15th century said everyone who's not a Christian is not a human being, can be killed. And what this person is, you can take away because it's not a human being. And all the tragedy began a few hundred years ago, and it's still going on. So
do you remember the meaning of the word Oxford?
No.
Oh, well, ford means where you cross the river. So Oxford University, one of the notorious colonizing educational so-called institutions, Oxford is where the bulls used to cross the river. So when it comes to academics like Oxford, you've got to be careful of the bullshit.
Okay. Jeffrey, I know it's a very...
The whole of academia has been behind this. The whole charade is about to collapse. And this is where Sanskrit comes in and yoga comes in, not as something to make you look pretty in your tights or to just make you feel good, but as a realignment of our life purpose to cooperate with Prakriti, with nature, and to work with the laws of nature and to treat each other with respect, Dharma. So I've named it a Dharmocracy. After watching Trump and Biden, if you think democracy is working, then have a nice day. But if you see what's really going on, then we need a Dharmocracy, where everything is used according to the best interest of everyone. Go ahead.
Jeffrey, I have a question about science. I'm very into science, and I don't know what's your opinion about is what's going on in the world. I see a lot of science. You know, that the 666, more and more leaders are showing up like this. Is this by accident, or is this on purpose? And what's the reason for that?
Did you ask me what about science?
No, the science. You know, more science about, I don't know, the 666 you see very often. You see very often politicians showing their fingers. What about that?
Well, I think it's part of the propaganda machine of the Catholic Church, frankly. I don't give it much thought because you see, the Abrahamic religions, Judaism to a lesser extent, they're really the friendly Abrahamic religion by comparison. But the dangerous branches of Christianity and Islam are one lifetime violent religions who are trying to scare everyone who has just one life, which makes them very frightenable, and coerce them and force them. So all of these fairy tales that came out of the early days of Christianity are just that. They're just fairy tales made up for children. Tell you two wonderful words. What is the root of the word, I'm going to ask you, despot? And what is the root of the word nepotism?
Despot is someone who is poor.
No, despot is a dictator, no?
Of sort. And what about nepotism?
No idea.
I understand. I know. I would have said the same. All right. So despot is from the Sanskrit desha, which means land, and pat is pati. And you know, Ganesha is called Ganapati. Pati means the ruler of something. The ruler of something is pati. So a despot is deshapati, someone who dominates and rules the land. And so this is the first thing. That's what the Pope really did. He said, go steal all the land. That's first. Now, nepotism is an even funnier one. It's from the word nephew and niece, and it means the nephew or niece of the Pope and all of the privileges they get. Now, where this is leading is that we are in the midst of despotism and nepotism. And I'm not sure whether or not yoga is going to entirely repair that. But what yoga is going to do is enlighten and awaken the people who are repelled by that. So we're at a Renaissance moment. I like to call it the Vedic Renaissance, because Sanskrit is the most intelligent, perfected language on our planet, and it is currently entirely ignored.
Jeffrey, I can absolutely confirm what you're saying. I was studying history, and before we come to the book, is And I was always eager how the church, the military, and the land was connected. And I remember when I moved to Mallorca, it's a smaller society. It was easier to do my research. And what I found out is from the rich families, the firstborn got the land, the second went to the military, and the third went to the church. And the power was always together, always together.
Absolutely. Absolutely, really. And so this is still, the story hasn't been told. So it's an opportunity right now for truth tellers to tell it. Now, what makes India unique in that regard? Because the sincerity of the indigenous cultures didn't protect them, and they don't have languages in which ancient knowledge has been locked in so that it's still available to us. The Vedic library of knowledge is actually a curriculum of how to live in this world. Ayurvedic medicine, yoga, a whole series of ways of living that don't leave the earth destroyed. And the earth, by the way, has a name. Her name is Bhumi, Bhumi, Mata Bhumi. And from Bhumi comes humus, and from humus comes humans. And so Bhumi is the name for humanity, the children of Mata Bhumi, but the children are not aware of their roots. Sanskrit is the roots of intelligent thought on our planet. No exceptions. There's not another language you can bring to me that stands in front of Sanskrit and is grown up. The rest of them are derivative from. Russia is from Rishi. Scandinavia is from Skanda, which means to leap in Sanskrit. Ireland is Aryan land. Again, Silk Road. So Sanskrit's been going down the Silk Road, and so we need a linguistic revolution. We can't use the same old words and have new words and new ideas. This is what yoga really is. It's a new vocabulary and worldview that does not leave a destroyed planet behind it and doesn't war with everyone because their skin or politics or something is different. Dharma.
Thank you. So to our audience, get off the map into the world and share the truth. Jeffrey, you did a new translation of the Bhagavad Gita, and people may ask, why a new translation? And I know that I would say for me it's a miracle. What you did is, you did a new translation without the flavor, the influence, and the manipulation of our background, of our language, of our Christian background. Would you say it's a real translation, a neutral translation? What's the difference?
Very well said. Along with this colonization that we've been discussing came a group of words. Lord, and is one English example. Lord is from Old English half-lard, and his partner half-lady, and they were the owners of the land, just as we see the system still in the UK. And the workers were the peasants, and they were paid in bread, just like in the Roman Empire. If the Romans stopped giving out free bread, there was revolution. If they gave out free bread, the peasants put up with it. So Lord and Lady means the one who bakes the bread, that's the lady, half-lady, and the Lord is the one who protects the bread and gives it out to the peasants as their pittance for being enslaved on the land. So Lord should never be used in any translation of a Sanskrit text. It's an abusive English word, and it does not have a corollary in Sanskrit. Another one is God. Just one more. So God, the English word, if I said, please tell me what God means. So let's play for a minute. Give me your idea, either one, of the meaning of that word in English. Literal meaning, no abstractions.
I got the other one wrong, so I'll guess again. All-knowing, almighty.
Something like that.
For me, God is my highest inner self, but
Sure, because that's not the way it's used as a word by the Christians. and you're looking for a word. But the real meaning of the word God is that you've seen this in India. When people get food from the earth before they eat it, they put a little bit in a fire and say thank you. And what they're actually saying is, I promise to take care of the earth and regenerate it. Thank you for giving me the food. But the propagandist machine of the Catholic Church made that into worshiping many gods. So guess what? When you put your little offering into the fire and saying thank you, it turns into smoke. That smoke is called hutam. But when the Germans pronounced hutam, it became gutam. And when the Dutch pronounced it, it became gut. And when the English took it over, it became God. So interestingly and ironically enough, God is the smoke arising from a pagan fire sacrifice. Who knew?
I love that. I love that.
That's all it means. The rest is just pretend. It's stealing a word from Bharat. So ignorant, you don't even know how ironic it is that you stole it. Catholic Church stole the smoke from the offering, from the thank you offering to all the divines. And of course, Yahweh must be a lonely, grumpy old man because he's got no friends. Whereas in the Vedic culture, the friends and assistants of the ultimate supreme are all user-friendly. There are a whole group of them. The whole universe is incorporated. We don't get it. We look at our corporations, we should go, oh, I get it. I'm in a big corporation and I have a little one. So all the workers, would you call them all the CEO? No. And yet, the Abrahamic religions, especially Christianity, said, oh, you think, that the workers are the CEO. Nobody thinks that if they're halfway educated. So hutam, you see it plain and clear. There's a whole slew of words. Now, I launched into this at your asking so we can show that none of these words, it's not that you didn't know them, nobody knows them. But the original users of these words replaced Sanskrit words with colonizing Christian words. And so what I've done is removed all of that terminology from any English translation, so from the Gita, and instead left about 100 or so Sanskrit words in that are necessary. So here's the secret. They don't have synonyms in the English language. So those words are necessary to sketch out another worldview other than the one that we've been given. A one lifetime worldview.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I don't know what you think, Dr. Jacalyn, but I think our audience has a lot of stuff to digest after the show, I think.
I think so too. I'm digesting it myself. We do have the link up for people to order your book over on Amazon. And I have a lot more questions, so we'll have to have you back.
I love you. Personally.
Jeffrey, can you do a short reading of your book? And if it's possible, maybe you can refer what the older translations did wrong, so people get an idea.
Yes. Well, first of all, the second question. Bhagavan is the name of the Supreme Being. And Bhagavan means that being who has 6 qualities that we all want to an unlimited degree: beauty, wealth, strength, fame, knowledge, and generosity. So the being with the most of those is called Bhagavan. So Bhagavan says in the Bhagavad Gita, I am the source of everything. From me, the entire creation flows. Knowing this, the wise adore me with all their hearts. Their thoughts dwell in me. Their lives are surrendered unto me, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss, engaging with one another and speaking of me. Out of compassion for them, I, who am dwelling within their heart, destroy the darkness born of ignorance with the shining lamp of knowledge. Now, in a standard translation of that, God would have been in there, Lord would have been in there, sin would have been in there. All of these Christian words would have corrupted that, and we would have still thought we were sitting in Catholic Mass or in church somewhere, which means the Gita and all other Sanskrit translations done that way are disabled by the incorrect use of these English terms. And I've removed them in all the verses that are trying to deliver a message. They're not corrupted by Christian terminology or meaningless terminology. So almost every Gita calls Krishna God. Almost every one says Lord Sri Krishna. And as a result, those things had to be removed so that the actual meaning could be explained. English isn't useless. It's just dangerous in the departments where it was used to colonize. And of course, it was done in such a way that it's easy to read. The layout is convenient. And most translations of Sanskrit works have small glossaries of meaning to the words and only give you a short one-to-one answer. And that is the problem. Instead, in this one, we have paragraphs long enough to get the real meaning of the Sanskrit word across. And those Sanskrit words have been left in the text rather than taken out. So it's as close to the original meaning that was intended for the book as any Bhagavad Gita that has ever been printed so far, just by cleaning up the language.
How long did that all take you?
About 10 years. And a deep, deep dive into linguistics and etymology. And as a result, I'm about to make 3 more books on the Sanskrit words to learn, the English words not to use, and the amazing amount of Sanskrit that is hidden inside of English. So how about one of those? What do you call a doctor who works on your heart?
A cardiologist.
Cardiologist.
Good. So cardio is from the Latin cardia. But Latin, you see, and Greek come directly from Sanskrit. So that word, cardia, in Sanskrit is hridaya, Hridaya. And in fact, it means where Bhagavan, where the ultimate being is sitting in your body, is in your heart. And so it's Hari, Daya, it's the seat of Hari. But now, in English, it's just cardiac. Totally lost its roots, totally lost its original meaning. And I might add to that, that in spite of often good intentions, our cardiologists are still working on a very limited view of who we are, and it often gets in the way of allopathic medicine from being a health-giving department. So words are all scattered throughout English, critical words that are actually Sanskrit. So I'm going to make those visible to everyone.
Very thought-provoking. Thank you.
Like a tree, it takes us back to our roots.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what yoga takes us to our roots.
So is it possible to practice yoga without the physical part and without the mantras?
Well, technically, yes, but the mantras are so crucial that there's no reason one would do that. It's sort of like asking if someone becomes a completely illiterate and can't speak and can't hear, could they still be happy? Could they still become enlightened? Well, yes, it's a little difficult, but there's no reason to remove mantras. Whereas the physical part will go away, it's called aging. You can only do so much in a body at any age. So if you're improving with age, then it's not because your body can do hatha yoga better. It's because your consciousness is more steady in a certain state. But you might say that once you know what you're doing and have been doing it long enough, I've been practicing for 50-some years, so it's first nature, not second. You have a default setting, and that default setting is who you really are. And everything else, you do it temporarily, but you don't ever forget who you really are, not even for a moment. And almost always you behave as that. So in India, in Sanskrit, they call someone who's like that an acharya, or guru. They're heavy, dude. Guru means heavy.
Dr. Jeffrey, thank you so much for enlightening us here today. We have to close out our show because Roland has his Talking Heads episode coming up right after this. We do have the link for people to order your book, and we do have your contact information. But if people would like to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
GitaComesAlive.com.
GitaComesAlive.com.
Or Jeffrey Armstrong.
Or JeffreyArmstrong.com.
Okay.
Lots of interesting films on YouTube. Look at CITTI, Chitty TV. Done a weekly show with them for quite some time now. And to both of you, thank you so much for your interest and for your intelligent, searching questions. On behalf of everyone listening, you've asked the questions that were just perfect, as if they were scripted. So a pleasure to be with you both. And Roland, a pleasure to see you again. And I hope we'll do more.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Jeffrey. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandy, also.
Oh, of course.
Thanks, Sandy.
Sandy and I are a team. And everything that I do, Sandy is making possible. And in this regard, as I said earlier about the male and female divine, she and I live that way as yogis. And we're each other's gurus. So I'll let you go with that.
That's beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Again.
Thank you both.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Namaste.
Roland, thank you so much for asking Dr. Jeffrey back. It was really thought-provoking. I'm doing a lot of searching here, which I love.
I have goosebumps. Really, I have goosebumps. Really, absolutely.
Absolutely. But Roland, how can people reach out to you? And what are you going to be sharing today in your Talking Heads episode?
Actually, we continue with episode 2. Today we talk about how to manage change through innovation, why innovation is so important to help your customers manage change. That's what the Talking Head is. Well, it's difficult to breathe. I'm so flashed from Jeffrey's words.
Okay, can you let people know about your website, how to reach you?
Yeah, the best way to get in contact with me is go to my main website. It's rolandfriedl.com. It's my name, Roland Friedl. It's ROLANDFRIEDL, rolandfriedl.com. There's a contact form. Please contact me, whatever you want to talk about. I'm always open to connect with people. I love to share my wisdom, but I also love you to share your wisdom and your experience, because it's all about sharing and caring and connecting. So please feel free to connect me. I'm very curious where you're coming from and more curious where you want to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Roland. I'll let you go over to the other studio, and I'll be there shortly to produce.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. And as always, thank you to each and every one of you, wherever you are in the world. We're just so excited. We just broke, I think, 31,000 views in the last 28 days. That's just on YouTube. That's not on any of our radio platforms or Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or podcasts. So we keep growing and growing. We are working on our 2023 programming, which will be defined and decided on by October 15th. So if you'd like to host your own show, if you'd like to be a co-host, if you'd like to be an expert talking head, if you would like to be a panelist, whatever idea you have, please do reach out. Go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com/contact us. I'm always looking for new people to join our team. We currently have 39 people. I think by the end of the day, it'll be 42. We want you on our team as well. So please do reach out. We'd love to have you with us and have you share your work so we can support you as we help others across the world. Thanks again. We'll see you shortly on Roland's Talking Heads episode.